You're listening to Saturday Morning Media. And now, back to our show. Here we go.
Welcome once again to the Grantcast. It is a pleasure to have you here today. This is Grantcast episode number 228, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, for listening, for downloading, and a special shout out to all the Patreon patrons and the behind-the-scenes patrons who get to see a video of the recording of this episode. All patrons get to hear the episodes early, but behind-the-scenes patrons get to see a video and can see the wonderful outfit that I'm wearing right now. Well, I just wanted to give a little wrap up here that has been the topic over the past couple of weeks, and that has to do with tin fish, fish that comes in tins. So I ordered a bunch of tin fish, and the one I was really eager to try was the tin fish in mustard, and I tried it, and it was good, but it was not great. It just was like, I can eat this. This isn't a problem eating this, but it's not good to me. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm saying to me, it was not good in that moment. So I had ordered all these tin fish things, and I thought, well, eventually I'll get through and I'll eat all these, various cans of tin fish that I have. And I soon realized, you know what, maybe I should try them a different way. Maybe I shouldn't just open the can and try to eat them straight out of the can. Maybe I should try to prepare them in a little bit of a better way. Now, I didn't want to heat them up at all because I just feel like, tin fish smell like tin fish. And then if you heat it up, the house is going to smell like tin fish. So I didn't want to do that. And I just decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get some crackers. And I'm going to put a little tin fish on a cracker because I hear a lot of people talking about sardines and crackers and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to get a little can of or a little bag of crackers, and I'll put some tin fish on there. I'll put a little hot sauce on, and I'll eat them. And I did, and it was good, but it was still not great. Like, it still was just like, okay, yeah, I could eat these. This is fine. I'm eating this, but it's not a pizza. It's not great. And I just kind of, I was just kind of like, yeah, I think this is it. I think this was a Friday evening. Saturday morning at about 4:30 in the morning, my stomach woke me up and was like, hey, remember those tin fish you ate? Let's have a discussion about them in the bathroom. Now, I'm not going to get into any details other than that, it was a very rough morning with several trips back and forth to the bathroom. I can't 100% blame it on the tin fish, but that's what I'm blaming on the tin fish. And it was very funny because Suzanne is a vegan, and so the idea of tin fish is not her greatest idea of something to have in the house. In the world, I am not a vegan, but I'm just, there's just some things that she can tolerate better than that. And that Saturday morning, I was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm a tin fish person. We were lucky there were no closed doors between her and the tin fish cabinet in the kitchen, or the cabinet where the tin fish was, because she could not get downstairs fast enough to open that cabinet and throw all the tin fish away, saying that she was very, very happy. I mean, there was only like 2 cans in there or whatever, but very, very happy that I was not a tin fish person and I would no longer eat tin fish. And I will say this, my stomach problems lasted through Monday. So whatever it was that got me, whether it's the tin fish, whether it was something else I ate, it was a rough weekend. But that is in the past, and I'm very happy for it to be in the past. It did remind me of a story. In January of 2014, I went on a tour, a puppet show tour, which I won't say too much about, but the head, I'm going to blank on what his official title was, but the head, our head tech person, our head tour manager, was the amazing Cameron Zetti, who I work with now all the time in Puppet Up Uncensored. And Cameron is a great guy. I was not feeling it on this trip for a couple of different reasons that I won't get into here. But there were some very strong personalities on this trip that I did not gel with very well. And Cameron was not one of them. Cameron and I had been friends before this tour, and we are still friends today. But it was January of 2014. We were in the Northeast. That's where the tour was, and it was very, very cold, and there was a lot of snow. And I remember we had a show in Maine, and the show was canceled. I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, the show was canceled because the heater broke in the theater, and they weren't going to have a bunch of kids come in if there was no heat in the theater. So we still all got paid for the show. It's just that the show did not happen, did not go on as it had been planned to go. So we had the day off. I was not feeling it just because of the other personalities on the tour that I was clashing with. And Cameron said, you know what, we're in Maine. Why don't we go get some lobster? And no one else wanted to go, but I said, I will go with you to get some lobster. So we went out to go find lobster. But the thing is Maine, where we were in Maine, it was sort of one of those summer towns where things are open in the summer, but then they close for the season. So we were looking around, looking for everything, trying to find a place to go get lobster. And we finally found this riverboat place that was, it's like a riverboat parked near a dock, but it's a restaurant on the riverboat. And we walked up, and we were the youngest people there for sure. I forget what time of day we went, but we got onto this riverboat place. We said, we're here from the Lobster, and they had a two lobster deal. It was 2 lobsters, $25. And so we said, okay, this is going to be great. So we sit down, they ask us how we want our lobster, and they have it where you can kind of crack the lobster yourself. They'll just bring you a lobster on your plate, and then they give you the bib, and they give you all this stuff, and then you will go and, crack open all the parts of the lobster yourself that you want to eat. And the other way is they have it prepared the normal way, just the regular way that you would have lobster prepared, where it's just the tail, and they bring you the lobster tail. It's all cracked open, and you just take it out of the tail. So I opted for that because that's the way I know lobster, and that's the way I'm going to have my lobster. Cameron opted for the whole lobster. So they brought him 2 whole lobsters and then those little nutcracker things and just said, go to town. Well, halfway through the meal, I could tell that Cameron was having, I don't mean to laugh at him, but he was having a real rough time cracking open this lobster. And not just like he was having oh God, this is gross, cracking open the lobster thing. And he should have had it prepared the other way. But God bless Cameron. He was going to soldier on. He was just going to keep eating this lobster no matter what happened. And he was going to get his $25 worth because he wanted to go to Lobster. But I'm trying to have a conversation with him, and he is just miserable. He just looks like at any moment he's going to honk all over the place, just because they just cooked a lobster and brought it to him. So all that entails, the eyes are still on, everything's still inside the lobster. It's not just the lobster tail where you can be a little bit removed from it. So he's going through this, and I was like, Cameron is having a bad time. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go use the restroom, but I'm going to see if I can do a little magic trick. And I had been in college a huge fan. I mean, I'm still a fan of Penn and Teller, but I had been a huge fan of these books that Penn and Teller had put out. They put Penn and Teller Cruel Tricks for Dear Friends, Penn and Teller How to Play with Your Food, and Penn and Teller, I believe, Go Play on the Freeway. And these were tricks with like magic tricks you could perform in various places, various situations. And one of the tricks was that was sort of based on the story that Picasso would go into places and order a big meal, and then he would doodle on a napkin and pay with his pay for the meal by just giving the person the napkin, because they could then later sell the napkin, and it's a Picasso. So their thing is like, oh, you just go out and you catch your server, you give them the card, you just tell them to do anything on the card, like to put the whole meal on the card without the rest of the people at the table knowing. And then the joke would be in the book was that you would be doodling on a napkin, and the waiter would come back, see the napkin, and be like, oh my God, you're a brilliant artist. I will take care of your meal if I can just have this napkin. And then the joke is you would do it like really, really roughly, in this drawing on this napkin. So I just decided that I was going to do the same kind of thing, but I was going to have the waiter recognize me as a puppeteer, which is the stupidest thing in the world, because only puppeteers recognize other puppeteers. You know what I mean? Outside of Jim Henson, Sherry Lewis, and maybe Waylon Flowers, who, not a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this can recognize other puppeteers, but the general public does not recognize puppeteers. And so I just decided, like, I went to go use the restroom, and I saw my server, and I said, listen, we're going to play a little joke on my friend. You charge, me everything here. I will pay for everything. I will come back by afterwards and I will sign this. But you just come up and say, because I'm a puppeteer, you're a big fan. The meal is on the house, and you're honored that I'm there and all this stuff. And the waiter barely kind of grasped what was going on, but got into it. And came to and so I just went back. We had dessert. We ordered dessert. We're sitting there eating, and then the waiter comes. How was everything? Was everything great? Oh yes, everything was good. And then it was. He said, "Listen, I'm very sorry to do this, but are you a puppeteer?" And I was like, "Yes." It's like, "Oh my God, I love all your work. I saw you," and I told him a few things to say that he'd seen me in, which I think at the time I had not been in a lot. But he was like, "Oh, yeah, so great. Let me pick up this meal." Now the meal, there was two of us, and we both had the $25 deal, so that's $50. We got some desserts. He got some coffee. I think we may have had some appetizers or something. So, like the meal was like $80 or $90, and Cameron is like, "Absolutely not. No, what are you talking about? You can't." And he was like, "No, please, I insist. It's on me." And Cameron's mood changed in an instant. And he was just like, he could not believe it. He was like, "This is the craziest thing in the world." And I go, "I know. I don't understand it. I don't know why this guy knows puppeteers and can recognize me." So the whole way back to the hotel we were staying at, Cameron's just going, "Oh, I just can't wait to tell everybody what happened. This is the craziest thing." And for the whole rest of the tour, Cameron's like, "Well, maybe we should have Grant go in, because Grant will get us a free meal the whole time." And so it was a pretty great, it was a fun little story. It made a portion of a miserable tour a lot more fun. And I did not tell Cameron for a very long time. I told everybody else on the tour that it was totally fake, but Cameron did not know for a very long time, but then Cameron does know now. Anyway, just talking about tinned fish reminded me of buying lobster for Cameron in Maine. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Grantcast. I want to thank you for downloading. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Big shout out to all the Patreon patrons, and I will talk to you someday very, very soon on the next episode of the Grantcast. This episode of the Grantcast was made possible by the Saturday Morning Media Patreon patrons who've gone to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up a pledge for as little as $1 a month. Patrons at the behind-the-scenes level and above get access to a video of the recording of this episode. Big shout-out to all of our patrons, and a special shout-out to our patron producers, Eve Cunning, Kathy Crawford, Tony Urbano, Brandy, David Akers, Paul, Scott Armstrong, Vicky Sebring, and Ricky Chavez. If you'd like to become a patron and receive episodes of the Grantcast before they are released, visit patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media today and set up your monthly pledge. And thank you for your support. This episode of the Grantcast is copyright 2024 Saturday Morning Media, Grant Baciocco, executive producer, all rights reserved. www.saturdaymorningmedia.com.
You've been listening to Saturday Morning Media. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.